Padma Mudra Padambuja.
Jnana Vijnana Yogena
Karmana Mudaranjata Hiranyakesha Padmasha Padma Mudra Padambuja.
Jnana
Jnana
of spiritual knowledge, Vijnana
Vijnana
and application, Yogena by means of mystic yoga, Karmanam of material actions, Udaram uprooting, Jata the roots, Hiranyakesha golden hair, Padma Aksha lotus-eyed, Padma Mudra marked with the sign of the lotus, Padma Ambuja having lotus feet. And the text. By mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapila Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the marks of lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. And then we have a purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this verse, the activities and the bodily features of Kapila Muni are very nicely described. The activities of Kapila Muni are forecast herein. He will present the philosophy of Sankhya in such a way that by studying this philosophy, people will be able to uproot the deep-rooted desire for karma, fruit of activities. Everyone in this material world engages in achieving the fruits of his labor. A man tries to be happy by achieving the fruits of his own honest labor, but actually he becomes more and more entangled. One cannot get out of this entanglement unless he has perfect knowledge or devotional service. Those who are trying to get out of this entanglement by speculation are also doing their best in the Vedic scriptures, are also doing their best. But in the Vedic scriptures, we find that if one has taken to the devotional service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness, he can very easily uproot the deep-rooted desire for fruit of activities. Sankhya philosophy will be broadcast by Kapila Muni for that purpose. His bodily features are also described herein. Jnana does not refer to ordinary research work. Jnana entails receiving knowledge from the scriptures through the spiritual master by disciplic succession. In this modern age, there's a tendency to research by mental speculation and concoction. But the man who speculates forgets that he has himself is subject to 4 defects of nature. He is sure to commit mistakes, his senses are imperfect, he is sure to fall into illusion, and he is cheating. Unless one has perfect knowledge from disciplic succession, he simply puts forth some theories of his own creation. Therefore, he is cheating people. Jnana means knowledge received through disciplic succession. And the scriptures, disciplic succession from the scriptures. and Vijnana means practical application of such knowledge. Kapila Muni's Sankhya system of philosophy is based on Jnana and Vijnana. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Itanayani Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pachani Nirvaseshna Sinyavadi Teskatati Satani. I don't know, does this sound like a little too loud? For me it sounds like, I don't know if it's too loud, but sounds a little too loud. As the material world, we may come to an effective conclusion. Better to get the knowledge directly from the Shastras and the Sadhu and the Guru. But very often, one may endeavor for this analytical knowledge. We're trying to analyze the function of the material world. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is also explained. Krishna touches upon the Sankhya philosophy. In the 5th chapter, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna Actually, Arjuna, at the beginning of the 5th chapter, he's asking Krishna, well, you've told me to renounce, but again, you've also told me to engage in activity. To engage in is swadharma. We all have our own propensities, that we can utilize our propensities to serve God. And so Arjuna is a little confused. He says, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then you recommend work with devotion. So he's a little confused, and Krishna explains. He goes on to explain. Krishna says, only the ignorant speak of devotional service, which is referred to here as karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world. He says that this is Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both paths. So that's very interesting. Krishna is making a very interesting point here. That so many people try to look at the material world. Krishna later on goes to explain in the 7th chapter that the material world is comprised of 8 elements. There's 5 physical elements, and then there's 3 subtle elements. There's earth, fire, air, water, and ether are the 5 physical elements. And then the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego are the 3 subtle elements. And so Krishna is touching upon this idea that Kapila is presenting, Sankhya philosophy, to analyze the material world in hopes that we can find some spiritual solution. Because the material world, everything is constantly changing. It's very, very bewildering that the material world never stays the same for very long. All of the materials are growing. There's the birth of the human being. So the materials are, in one sense, are also going through these different stages. The living entities are going through various stages. There's birth, and there's growth, and there's maintenance, and then there's deterioration, and finally it is destroyed completely. So in one sense, all of the various elements are going through a similar process. There's sometimes it looks brand new, just like the springtime. The spring is coming and everything is so extraordinary, buzzing with life. And the material world, it seems very, very favorable place to live. But the problem with the material world is there's always some difficulty that arises. This is also explained later on in the Bhagavatam. We're in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavatam, and in the 5th chapter of Bhagavatam, one nice